Welcome back to my channel. Today what I wanted to do is talk about transplanting trees, and this one in particular. So what I'm going to do is explain how to do it, and I'm going to move this little plumeria from here over to the lawn. This spot out here is a lot better for the plumeria, where it can get probably about 15 to 20 feet tall, so it'll be a better spot right here. Alright, let's get to it. So what I wanted to do is figure out how much root ball that I'm going to need to transplant this tree. So in a nursery, when you go buy a tree, it's already in a container and it was raised that way. But if you're going to dig a tree out, you got to figure out how much root space and soil that you need. So for a tree that's small, say 4 inches in diameter and smaller, what you'll want to do is you'll measure from the soil level, from the root crown, and you're going to go 6 inches up, and at that point at 6 inches you're going to get the diameter. I don't have my diameter tape, so I'm going to do it by measuring with pi. Now this trunk is roughly 8 inches in circumference. So now what I'll do is I'll get the 8 inches and I'll divide it by pi. So I'll get my trusty phone here, and I'll go the 8 inches and I'll divide it by pi, which is 3.14, and it equals 2.5. So what I'm going to do, you're going to need 10 inches of root ball for each inch of diameter for a tree trunk. So 2.5 times 10. So 2.5 times 10, it'll be 25 inches is what I'll need. So what I'm going to do is measure it out. Now that I figured out what size I want the root ball to be, which is 25 inches, I'm going to measure out from the tree 25, or actually 12.5 inches. I'll tie a line to the end of it and tie it to a stick, and I'll make a circle for my mark of how big I want the root ball to be. 12.5 inches because it's going to be a 25-inch root ball. So here we go. So first thing what I'm going to do is I'll put a little string around the tree, and I'll tie a bowline so it'll move freely. Now here we go. Okay, so once I got that tied in, now I'm going to measure, so roughly from the center of the tree, and I'll go about 12.5 inches out. So about right here. So what I'm going to do is I'll get my string, and then I'll connect a stick to it. And what I'm going to do is I'll mark what my root ball size should be. And then I'll work from that spot outward. So now I get it tight. Might be a little bit off, but here we go. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trace around the tree. I can try to keep it tight. Okay. Oops. And there we go. Let me get over here. That kind of, I went off a little bit. There. So that's roughly how big my root ball is going to be. Now, got to start digging. So here's some of the tools that I'm going to possibly use. I got this drainage spade. I used to know it as a balling spade, but I guess nowadays they call it a drainage spade. Maybe a cheap pair of loppers, round point shovel, a flat shovel for, scooping piles and things, and possibly a Pulaski. So when you're going to be cutting roots, what you want to do is make sure that they're clean cut. So it's good to sharpen your shovels and some of the tools you're going to be using. So what I'll first start doing is I'm going to go all the way around the tree with the shovel, and I'm going to make my first cut, and I'll try to just see if I can do it. I'm going to try to stay as true to that marking of mine. Might be a little bit off, but it doesn't really matter so much. Now, when you're digging, you don't have to go straight down. You want to judge what the roots are doing, the density of the roots. So if the roots kind of start lessening toward, you know, as you're going down, then you can have your root ball taper inward, so you don't have to have so much soil when you're moving it. So first what I'll do is I'll do this first cut to try to get many roots as I can at the edge, and then I'll start using a balling spade there. Okay. Now the depth should be, I'm going to go about maybe 18 inches deep. Now each tree will be a little bit different that you work on depending on how many roots you find as you go downward. All right, so I've uncovered the root ball about 13 inches deep. I don't think I'm going to go any deeper than that, because what I was noticing is that the irrigation here is kind of only kind of drenched a certain amount of soil. You can see how this is like wet, and here's all the root balls, and then all the roots, and then underneath it's really dry, so there's a lot less. So what I'm going to work on is cleaning up the dry areas and kind of sculpting it, and it'll probably be maybe a 13-inch deep root ball. So now I've got the root ball about what I want. So I don't have a dolly or anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just make a little bit of a ramp here, stick a shovel under it, and drag it to where I'm going to plant it. So now that I wrapped it with just some regular saran wrap to try to save the root ball that was falling apart, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a rope around it, and I want to use it as a handle so I can lift it, so I could put the shovel in place. So let me see if I can do that. What I'm going to do is get it ready here. I'm going to choke it, and then when I choke it, I'm going to lift the root ball, and then I'll put the shovel underneath. Okay. There we go. So now with the shovel and the rope, hopefully I can maneuver it out of the hole and get it to where I was hoping to bring it. So my rope fell off, so I'm just going to readjust it a little bit more. This time I'm just going to tilt back the root ball. There we go. Put it on the shovel, And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw my rope around probably the top portion of the root ball on the back side, kind of hold it in place. It'd be a heck of a lot easier if I decided to do it with a dolly. All right, here we go. All right. So now I got to dig the hole. So now that I got the root ball and everything ready, I'm going to dig the hole where we're going to plant it. So the root ball is about 9 inches deep. So we're going to make the hole only about 8 inches deep. And the root ball was about 25 inches wide. So what I'm going to do is probably make about a 40-inch hole. So I'm going to measure out 40 inches. And actually 20 inches, not 40. I'm going to measure out 20 inches right here. And then I'm going to start cutting the grass out. So here's my 20-inch mark. I'm just going to do a slip knot here. So what I'm going to do is just make a little mark like at 20 inches all the way around. And then what I'll do is I'll cut out all the grass. Okay, so now I've got the edges of my hole where I want it to be. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the top layer of grass out. And I don't really want to go super deep. I just want to get the top layer, you know, some of the roots. And I just want to clear this out of the way. And I want to set it, I wanted to set it aside from my good dirt pile. Because what I don't want to do is have it inside of my hole. When I'm trying to plant back, I don't want all the green in there. I'd rather have it a clean soil. So what I'll do is I'll just take these little chunks at a time and I'm gonna set them off. And what I'll probably do when I'm done with the hole is I'll knock some of the soil off and keep some of it. But for the beginning part of this, I just don't want to have it in my clean dirt pile. Okay, so now I've cleaned out the grass and I'm getting ready to dig the hole. Now my root ball was only 9 inches deep, but I'm going to plant it high 1 inch just in case after you plant it might settle. So I'm only going to make this hole 8 inches deep by about 40 inches wide. I want a little bit of a little bit wider so I can firm up the soil once I put it in. And then it kind of breaks up the soil a little bit so when it grows, the roots will do a little bit better. So what I'm first going to do, I put the stick here. That's going to be my gauge. I want it to be flat. You know how some people might dig a hole and leave mounds of soil at the edge? Well, that's not so good because you got to have the right grade. So what I'm going to do is I'll go down 8 inches. This will be my pilot hole. And I'll measure it from my 8 inches down. I'll get my measuring tool and I'll stick to that level. Let me see how we're right here. Let's see how deep I got here. All right. So now I'm gonna get the measuring tape. I'll bring my stick here, and yeah, I've already passed 8 inches. So what I'm gonna do, this will be right here. This is gonna be how deep my hole is gonna be. I'm measuring from the bottom of the stick to the bottom of the hole. I don't want to go over dig the hole, because if I over dig the hole, that below part can like settle in a time. Maybe the whole root ball will go. Even in the root ball, since I moved it, it could have some settling. So my goal here will be to keep it this depth all the way around. Alrighty. Alright, so now that I have that pilot hole there, a lot of times I find it's easy, since I've already made that hole, to just start digging from that point and working my way away from it. I don't have to take really huge scoops. It makes the hole a lot easier to dig. And then I can keep the grade that I'm trying to keep a little bit easier, you know? So all right, so now got the hole at about 8 inches deep. So now it's time for me to go put that tree inside the hole. So I'll come over here and I'll pull it on over, and hopefully I get it in. Let's see. So, okay, so got to try to be gentle so I don't smash the complete root ball. And here we go. Okay, slowly. I'm gonna try to rock it in slowly. There we go. There. Yeah, that cellophane really helps. So now what I gotta do is just set it in the hole where I want it. Okay, cool. Get the rope off. Now I'm gonna have to pick a face. So I'm thinking I'm gonna rotate it right here. Okay. Now I'm gonna have to, as I fill in, I'm gonna have to adjust the root ball because I've got it tilted backwards. So what I'm going to do is I'll slowly start throwing soil around, shift some underneath, and pack it in. So let's start doing it now. I'll work on the back side first. I like to use a tarp on grass so you don't have to try to clean up the grass as much. So I'll just use a regular parent soil. So first I'm working off the back here, so because what I'm going to do is I'm going to tilt it upward. And definitely I'm going to take the paper off. I'm not going to leave it that way. I just want to make sure I don't let the roots go loose until it's time. So I'm going to get to this back side here. Lift the root ball up, and I'll pack it in. Once I get some in there, I'm going to use my shovel tip to pack it in. I'll do maybe one lift all the way around. So see, the root ball is almost level, and that's kind of what I'm after. I don't want the whole trunk straight. I'm more after the root ball, placing it back the way it was. Okay, so let me get a little bit of this packed in here. I'll do one ring on the bottom, and then I'm going to take the plastic off. Okay, so I've already put a ring of soil at the base here, and so what I'm going to do is with my foot, I'm going to firm it up. I'm not going to completely compact it, but what I'm trying to do is to push out any air pockets, you know, fill them in. So when I'm completed, there's none. You have air pockets, what can happen is it can dry root balls out or let water sit. That happens, then it can kill the roots. So now that I've done that bottom area and I filled it in, now I'm going to take the plastic off, and then I'll continue to fill in the root ball. So hopefully it stays in place. I kind of was tough with it, so there we go. There. So now that I got that off, I'll just kind of peel it off slowly. There we go. There. All right, so now I'll continue to backfill. And I'm gonna do it in lifts. So a lift is where you throw soil and then firm it up with your foot. And I'll just continue to do it. Let's see. Now that I've got a run around it with my shovel, I'm gonna spike it up a little because there's some clumps. I'm gonna try to break those up a little bit. All the way around. Try not to hit the root ball. I didn't get this far over here, so I'm just gonna spread some. And now I'll do the same thing with my foot. I'm gonna firm it up again. Like, so after I've filled in all the outside edge and firmed up the soil, I created a berm around the tree. Now that berm's important because we transplanted it, we cut a lot of roots, and we want it to stay out of shock. So right now what I'm going to do is just fill up the berm, and then I'm going to have to pay attention to it. I don't want it to be like, I don't want to let it go dry. There we go. Then you'll fill up the berm, and I'd say you'd probably want to water it maybe a couple times a week. During the cold season, maybe once, but in summertime, you probably want to do it at least 3 times a week, or if it shows like signs of wilting, you definitely want to put some water on it. So that's a video on transplanting small trees and some of the concepts behind it. Remember that if it's a tree that's 4 inches in diameter and smaller, that the root ball should be 10 times the size of each trunk diameter. And you'd find that by measuring from the root ball 6 inches high. Now, if it was a larger tree, if it was a tree that was greater than 4 inches, then you would measure a foot from the base, a foot up, and get the diameter at that point. And if it's a greater diameter, then it could be as many as 12 inches of soil per each trunk diameter. So for larger trees, a bigger root ball. That could be expensive, and you'd probably need heavy equipment. Small trees, just the basic ideas of that. Root ball size is like 10 times for each trunk diameter, 6 inches off the ground. So that was that transplanting video. Comment, like, and subscribe. If you like what we do, hit that notification bell, and by all means share our videos with people who like this kind of stuff. All right, take care. We'll see you next time.